One of the best parts about fighting games is simply picking your character. Whether it's because you relate to them, think they're cool, or just want to play someone top tier.
Just pick a top tier.
Everyone's got their favorites, and most players gravitate towards classic archetypes, like rushdown characters that overwhelm you, zoners that keep their distance, or perhaps grapplers that bring the pain up real close. But there's one archetype that's in a league of its own, and it's the joke character. A lot of players write off joke characters because, well, they don't always seem to fit. They can often be frustrating, taking up a valuable roster slot, but I think joke characters get way too much of a bad rep. In fact, they represent some of the best parts of game design freedom in fighting games. Think about it. Fighting games are amazing because you can have characters like Ryu, who teaches players the fundamentals of spacing and inputs, or King from Tekken, the ultimate grappler with command grabs that scream, "I'm fucking cool." And then you have characters like Dan Hibiki, who openly poke fun at the genre itself and bring something totally unique to the table. Or Gon from Tekken 3, a literal cartoon dinosaur who breathes fire, spins his tail, and feels like he stumbled in from a totally different game. Joke characters give developers the freedom to add something completely offbeat, and in a way, they remind us that fighting games don't have to take themselves too seriously. In today's video, I'll be making the case that joke characters are as essential to a fighting game as a base roster or any other archetype, and if you're into this kind of content, please leave a like and subscribe on the video, because I will be deep diving every single thing when it comes to fighting games on this channel. Let's start with the main man himself, Dan Hibiki. Dan is a classic example of how to make a joke character really fun and engaging. He's designed as a parody of Ryu and Ken, and his over-the-top attitude of moveset highlight his lack of seriousness. But what makes Dan so memorable is how the developers make him entertaining without giving him any clear advantage over the characters he imitates. Take Street Fighter V for instance. It's a game of complex characters and unique combos, yet somehow Capcom made Dan one of the most interesting characters to play. In Street Fighter V, his moveset feels carefully crafted, paying homage to his past while adding a lot of depth to his character. One of Dan's standout mechanics is the Dankuken Fireball, which has a short range but can be cancelled into other moves, allowing for creative combos. Dan's V-Skill 1 is a versatile taunt that can cancel into other moves, allowing for creative combos, extensions, and even making certain specials safe on block. His V-Skill 2 is a standing taunt that builds meter but can also be cancelled into specials or other normals, creating perfect frame trap opportunities for you against your opponent. Its only real drawback is that it leaves him highly punishable if it is blocked. Dan's V-Trigger 1 lets him charge his fireball either as a cancelable projectile or a fully charged guard breaker that opens up a chance for follow-up attacks. With V-Trigger 2, Dan gains new options for both his fireballs and dragon punches, further expanding his toolkit and adding layers in his playstyle that was not in previous games. Street Fighter V turned Dan from a pure gimmick into a character with surprising depth and skill potential. At one point, he even launched with an infinite combo exploit where he could loop his fireball in normals indefinitely. To fix this, the devs turned Dan's fireball into kind of a gotcha mechanic, meaning it occasionally fires a rare red projectile that mirrors sort of Ryu's power. This mechanic is perfect for Dan. He's not supposed to be skilled like Ryu or Ken or any fireball user, but every now and then he taps into that potential that Ryu and Ken and other Shotos have and becomes the Dan he really thinks he is. See, Dan is an arrogant character and he thinks he's the best person in the world, but obviously we know Dan is supposed to be bad. And that's how you design a perfect joke character. See, Dan is a perfect example of bringing in a casual audience in your game. Another character that I feel is a great example of this is Neco. Even though Melty is a big game in the anime space, it's relatively small compared to other fighting games like Street Fighter or the Guilty Gear series. But I know a handful of people that specifically bought Melty when Neco was added into the game as DLC. Neco is a joke character at its core. It has a super small hitbox with random ass moves that literally just make no sense, which is what the character is supposed to be. The character is supposed to draw the attention of people that don't care as much of your average character in Melty rather think, oh, that move looks really funky and interesting to pull off, let me do that in this game. Now, of course, I think that Neco is a good example of how the internet could grow a character to have a massive fan base. It's a bona fide meme in the internet realm. She will somehow pop up randomly in your feed, whether it's herself or the voice behind the character. And then there's the ugly type of joke characters, and of course, I mean literally ugly. Capcom went way outside the box with this one, taking Mega Man's notoriously terrible box art from his original North American release and turning him into a full blown out character. While other characters look polished and clean, ugly box art Mega Man is clunky and bizarrely awkward in the game. His moves almost feel like they're deliberately bad, and yet people either despise him completely or enjoy his really weird design. Funny enough, Keiji Inafune, who co-designed Mega Man, specifically requested this style of Mega Man to be in the game due to him feeling like Mega Man already had variants in other games that seemed kind of boring. So Capcom turned this idea into a really memorable character that's honestly so out of place in the world of Street Fighter Cross Tekken. Now, the three characters I mentioned are only a few in fighting games, but there's still one that I feel represents joke characters to a T, and that's Phoenix Wright. Phoenix Wright is a great example of a joke character that fans cannot help but root for, simply because of how wild and different and creative his moveset really is. Watching him shuffle around the battlefield scouring for clues and landing attacks that involve everything from sneezes to literally yapping off your opponent's ears with evidence is truly entertaining. His moves even include the judge himself passing judgment on the opponent, adding a final layer of absurdity. The way he's designed shows just how creative developers can get when they lean into the personality of the joke character. Phoenix brings an entirely new style to the game, one that's humorous but still rewarding. When he finally lands that game-changing turnabout mode, he embodies the true potential of his archetype, one that adds depth, personality, and a dose of unpredictability that no other characters can match in a roster. I'd be doing the fighting game community a disservice if I didn't mention one of the most legendary joke characters in fighting games, a literal car from Daytona 500, dropped straight into Fighter's Mega Mix. This 3D fighter combined rosters from Virtua Fighter 2 and Fighting Vipers 2, but somehow the developers decided to toss in the famous Hornet car as an unlockable fighter. What makes it so unforgettable isn't just its bizarre presence, it actually takes damage like a regular fighter with cosmetic parts falling off as it fights, producing mechanical clunks instead of typical grunts and groans. Just look at this character, man. It bends, it twists, and it shifts like a car is not supposed to be shifting. The car was unlocked by completing the game's secrets mode, adding a memorable unexpected bonus that was already made this arcade experience truly unique. And in the platform fighter genre, we've got Piranha Plant, a perfect example of how Super Smash Bros. Creator Sakurai brought in joke character inspiration from across the genre. In a roster filled with iconic legends like Mario, Sonic, Snake, and even Sora, nobody expected the humble Piranha Plant to make the cut. It's almost a playful parody on the hype surrounding major character reveals in Smash Ultimate, while adding a basic Mario enemy in the same lineup as gaming's greatest heroes. The Piranha Plant not only challenges expectations for your audience, but also adds a layer of humor that keeps the roster fresh and really unpredictable when it comes to Smash Bros. Games. In my opinion, I think joke characters aren't throwaway slots on the roster. They add personality, creativity, and humor, and keeps things refreshing and showing us the playful side of fighting games rather than the super serious side in most cases. In high level of play, it's easy to get caught up with winning and optimizing your character and playing a top tier, but joke characters remind us that these games are just meant to be fun. They add something that's irreplaceable and something that no other archetype can manage. So next time you see a joke character on the roster, just give them a shot. They're not just there for laughs, they're just a unique part of what makes fighting games so memorable, and don't forget, Neco Arc will always be right behind you.
もしもし、私だけど今どこ？